It's good to see everyone. Hey, if I get a chance before we get talking, I don't know, it's been a while. It was in January or February, maybe we lost Therese Paylor. I was a sophomore center at University of Missouri, and Therese was a beat writer for Kansas City, but it was also from Mizzou. And I was just having a tough go at center. I couldn't snap the ball. I was sailing snaps in games, and it was costing us big plays. And one media day after a particular bad game, he comes up, or a few guys. I'm not going to say names, but a few media guys go, "Are you as surprised as we are that you're still the starting center?" And as a 19-year-old, it crushed me. I was shaken. I was emotional, and Therese and another guy named Vahe came up to me. Didn't have to do this. This is the first time I ever met him, and he said, "Listen, pal, you're a young kid. You got this. We got your back. Let's take it one day at a time." And he didn't owe me anything, and he did that. And then I had him in Kansas City, and he's just a great dude. He's a good person. Did it for all the right reasons, and we lost him. And that was, I think he's got a scholarship fund at Howard University where he attended. And if you get a chance, we were trying to get the shirt. The Juice shirt. Was it a Juice shirt? Yeah, all Juice team shirt. We couldn't get it here in time. But I just want to start off. He was a good person, and we miss him dearly. Questions? Yeah, of course. Those will be short.
How are things going? Obviously, one of the big talking points all offseason was getting you guys back together, getting Cody back, and having some continuity this year. So far, so good. How things going?
Well, it's great to have Cody back. He's such a competitor. I think those last two seasons where he ended with injury, it's just irked him. And he's such a competitive guy and a great teammate and very cerebral out there. There's another center out there, knows his stuff. So it's great to have him out here. He's a competitor. And I know it was great to see him back out there. And we all have a lot to work to do. But it's really fun to have Cody back out there. And, we were able to, I know this is a while ago, but re-sign a bunch of guys. It's just that continuity is something you don't see in the NFL very often. So it's exciting. We're glad to have him, long story short, back.
You're one of the high expectations that, especially after what happened last year. So I'm going to flip this kind of around. What are the things that you have to guard against to not get to achieve that kind of production that you guys have? What do you have to guard against in that sense to not get to where you were or beyond last year?
Yeah, I think every team has a different identity, and training camp's finding that out. We're going to have ups and downs, ebbs and flows of every season, every game, every practice. I think if you just look at run plays, I think in 2019 we were a pin pull team. 2020, it's just every year is different. For us, it's all ultimately about putting points on the board however we can. And I think, like you said, it's always easy to say we can't be complacent and fight complacency. Expectations are high. We put it on ourselves to be high, but we also understand that right now and in practices and in these preseason games are for correcting mistakes, are for trying things out, now you don't want to try new things out preseason game, get the quarterback smoked. We don't want to mess up at those times, but right now it's for finding our identity, and that might be different than last year, might be the exact same. So right now, just kind of managing expectations, and no one puts higher expectations on us than ourselves.
Mitch, you mentioned free agency and getting guys back. You went through that as a player, ultimately changed teams, so you knew that those guys had to do what was best for them individually. But how did you approach it, knowing that Daryl and John were two key pieces for you? Were you a recruiter, or were you just kind of letting them make their decision and end up being pleasantly surprised that they came back?
Yeah, I'd say the latter probably. I think, like you said, this is a business in the end. Guys, your lifespan in this league is so minimal. And both these guys had the opportunity to test themselves in the market. Of course, they're some of my best buddies, and I love playing with them. So selfishly, we wanted them back, and it worked itself out like that. And we couldn't have been happier. And I think it was a really fun text message kind of group when all those guys re-signed, and it just kind of showed the compassion we have for each other and the bond that we have, which a lot of teams have, but it was something special on that offensive line last year, and we're trying to keep that.
Do you think that close relationship factored in? I mean, I know you can't speak for them and what made their decision, but do you think that could be part of it?
Yeah, absolutely, I think it can be. Every person, like you said, is different. Some guys have to, have to set themselves up for a lifetime, monetarily, but. I think if you talk to either of those guys or anyone who re-signed, this camaraderie, this organization, the mindset, and kind of what he preaches here, that's McDermott, definitely plays a role in that. We compete extremely hard. We compete against each other, offense and defense, but at the same time, there's no one closer in this locker room than the guys you compete against, and that's very special.
As someone who's gone through concussions in the past, to see the Guardian helmets out here and you guys wearing those, how it just kind of maybe from a standpoint of the game itself and how it's growing, the sports science, and being able to protect you guys and what that means for you.
Yeah, I mean, I at first I just saw it on my helmet, so I'm like, damn. Is this kind of a subliminal message? But it's something that I'm very comfortable with. And then we try it on. Of course, we give each other hell for how it looks. But then after, I think, one practice, I looked at Justin Zimmer. I'm like, man, I know we were getting after it, and I didn't feel anything. So now the flip side is we don't wear those during games. So I'm sure a few practices will take them off. But I think for the little hits here and there, especially in these practices, it's great. So I really enjoy those.
Is there anything unusual about actually wearing them?
You feel like you're playing Halo, like you're a Halo character, like these big-ass helmets. You got people giving you hell and your family being like, what the hell is this? Some people did. For me, the first few days with the helmet on in general, your neck gets a little sore. So it was just a little added. Nah, it wasn't too bad.
You mentioned the changes in the way you guys were doing things from 19 to last year. How much do you think that contributed to maybe not being totally in sync or at points? And how are you carrying that over? Is it just learning it, being more in sync, having the guys together again? Or how can you use that to maybe improve this year?
Are you talking about run game, just in general?
Yeah, I guess specifically, yeah.
Yeah, I think there was more. I think there was more outside the building concern about it than there was in here. Of course, we have pride. We want to run the ball well. It's kind of a prideful part of playing offensive line. You don't want to have negative plays. I think for all of us, it's about scoring points. And to help our pass attack, we have to run the ball better. So for us, it's not like we're starting from scratch, but there are certain things. I think there's one little thing off here and there that we can fix, and each person kind of looks at themselves and understands that everyone's got a role to play in that. So I definitely know I do. So I'm just trying to work on that myself, and then we'll see how it plays out.
Cody had mentioned that he is approaching this as a different mindset than he has the first couple of years. I know the pads aren't on, so especially for you linemen, it's more challenging. But have you seen or noticed a different approach or mindset early here?
I think it's a sense of urgency, right? Like we know what the possibility that we have. We know the pieces we have, but just because you have it on paper doesn't mean anything. You can get beat by anyone badly in this league. So for us, it's just, I think it's just a sense of urgency and understanding that we have a long way to go, and that's exciting, but at the same time, it's also a little bit daunting. So we're just trying not to make any day too big, but understanding that we can't take steps backwards because we don't have time.
When you see a guy like Spencer Brown getting some opportunities, do you think of him as the young guy on your side there, or you go back to when you were a rookie and thinking about what he's going through and trying to help him? How do you look at somebody like that?
Man, I think these rookies, the group we have, they study their ass off. They come in prepared. It's little nuances that you have to brush up on, but I think they're light years ahead of where I was. I feel like mentally, my rookie year, they just have the right attitude and they have the right mindset, and they're just a good group of guys. We're very lucky to have this group of rookies, and it's the biggest group of rookies I've ever seen. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, these guys are tall as hell, but they're good guys. And I think when you're in there, you're in it. You know what I mean? You're thrown in the fire. I think that's a great way to learn. It's how I learned. Andy threw me right in the fire, and he's like, you sink or swim. And I think these guys are doing a great job of swimming. Now there's bumps in the road, but that's how you get better. You compete against a great defense and a great defensive mind like Coach Frazier, and it'll get you right where you need to go quickly.
Do they come to you? Do they come to you for things? Do you go to them if you see something, or how does that normally work?
It's a two-way street. I think if you see something that you think is glaring, you go to them. But for the most part, they have great communication with the guards on their side, and their guards are really helping those guys out too.
After going through last training camp with kind of an abbreviated schedule, what impact do you think that had on offensive linemen as a whole?
That's a good question. I think a lot of undrafted free agents, a lot of rookies, they didn't get that opportunity to play in a game. Some guys didn't even suit up. It's so paramount to get reps against another team, and this is a normal training camp schedule, as normal as it can be with COVID, and it's fun to see. I think guys are embracing it. We had our first real off day, and that was kind of fun, and that's a great point. I think it was just, we had like a 2-week acclimation period, and then, I think those first few games we all felt it a little bit, and the offensive line definitely felt it.
You guys in particular, how was, you mentioned the running game earlier. How tough is it as an offensive lineman when you throw the ball so much to flip that switch into being, that run block?
Let me preface it with this. We're putting, as an organization, as a team, we care about scoring points. And if we got to throw the ball 70 times a game, it's not going to be the most fun, but if we're putting up points and we're putting our team in a position to win, that's okay. But like I said before, we'd like to balance that up to help all of us out, the quarterback, the receivers, especially the running backs and us. So for us, it's just a lot of it's situational awareness, understanding what situations we need to run the ball in, and then doing that.
The last 2 days, or last couple days, we've heard from Devin and Zach both, and they both have said basically, whether I'm starting or he's starting, doesn't matter as long as we win the Super Bowl. In a position where it can be guys wanting the ball and needing the ball, how refreshing is that as an offensive lineman to hear that it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I think it's a testament to the group of guys that Brandon and Sean have brought in. It's tough. We all have egos, right? And it hurts when things don't go your way sometimes. But I think we have a bunch of professionals. I think we all pride ourselves in being pros. When your number's called, you take that step and you go for it. If it's not called, you understand why, you get the answers why, and you be the best teammate you can be. And I think we got a bunch of pros doing that, and it's very enlightening to hear. Now I know those guys are fighting their ass off to get that number one spot. But we'll talk about two guys with very high character, young dudes who have perspective at such a young age. It's pretty cool.
Mitch, when you talk about the continuity, and this is so rare, obviously. So you're way ahead of the game now than you normally would be if you had 3 new offensive linemen and a bunch of new guys. So is the tolerance for error maybe even a little bit less if a mistake comes up, or do you still have to let that breathe because it's football?
I think the latter. You understand that it's football. Now, you have less of a tolerance for making the same mistake twice, right? You never try to make the same mistake twice, but you definitely have a low tolerance for it. And I think the people who have the lowest tolerance are the people messing up. You don't want to be the guy who makes the same mistake twice. It's not coachable. It's not cool. So I think, like you said, we're just trying to understand it's football. I think the precedent set by the coaches and their demeanor, and right now it's as long as you're putting your best foot forward, you're competing, you make a mistake, that's okay. Let's just make it 1,000 miles an hour, and then we'll make the corrections, and then when it comes up, we'll fix it. And then if we don't, if it happens again, now we have a problem with either the person or the way we're teaching it, and we go from there.
You mentioned the day off yesterday, and getting in here today, charging up for the week, the 2 days, pads come on tomorrow. Does the kind of gears switch a little bit? Does the vibe change a little bit knowing that that's coming?
Try to get maybe a little more sleep the night before a big padded practice. I think it speaks to if you try to do too much outside of yourself. We've been really working with these shells on, understanding that the same techniques are going to carry over. You don't need to do anything too different, but understanding that that run period is going to be a tone setter. Now you have pads on, and now it's big boy football. And mistakes are going to be made. They might feel a little bit worse because pads are on, but understand it's the same thing. It'll learn from them. You got to fire out full speed, and if your intensity changes, then something's wrong. But it inherently does just because full pads come on. So it'll be a fun day. I think it'll be a lot of learning experiences, and we'll go from there.
Mitch, when it comes, you talked about the sense of urgency that this team has. Is it increased as opposed to like a team that brought a lot of players together in free agency in the offseason, as compared to this team? Is the sense of urgency heightened knowing what you are capable of because because the bar has been set?
Yeah, mean, you definitely know who you got, and I think that's a big plus. Not to say that bringing other guys in is a negative, right? I think it just goes back to understanding that we did set a precedent last year, but that doesn't mean anything. And we're kind of going to be the hunted this year, and with that comes a whole new set of challenges, and it's exciting. But at the same time, you got to understand you got to put your best foot forward every practice, every rep, and every game, because your opponents are definitely doing that. And you just look at our division; they've ramped it up and brought a bunch of really talented guys in there, and a lot of mindsets to compete for this AFC East championship, because it's going to be a daunting task to play our division this year. And we're excited, but at the same time, we understand the competition is going to be pretty intense.